Hello and welcome. My name is Annie Browning, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to sit with you and to engage in a deeper reflection about many of the changes that we are experiencing right now as leadership paradigms begin to shift and change in our world and in your own context. As an overview of this series, today I want to explore with you the great unraveling and the greater emergence, true leadership in a world of transition that is beckoning to you and to me to lean into a new way of being, a new way of leading that is aligning with the new paradigm that is emerging right now. I'll start by saying that if you feel confused or lost or like suddenly you don't know where you're going or what you're doing or what you can expect in terms of your own leadership context, you are not alone, because there are many changes that we are experiencing in the unconscious, in the subconscious, and we get hints and signals and signs of these changes, and we know how to lead based on what has been instead of leaning into the emergence of what is coming and what is already rising into the surface of our awareness. And that is why this conversation is so important. It will prepare you to stay ahead of the wave, ahead of the curve of what is slowly emerging, often quite rapidly actually, that is affecting how you lead and the state from which you lead. To give a more concrete example of this emergent way of leading, I want to start with a story that's told among quantum physicists about Niels Bohr, who was one of the founders of quantum mechanics. The anecdote goes that a visitor came to his country home and noticed a horseshoe hanging over his door. The visitor scoffed and said, "Surely you, a scientist, don't believe that a horseshoe brings good luck." And Bohr smiled and replied very slowly, "Of course not, but I am told it works whether you believe in it or not." This story is about two ways of seeing or perceiving our reality. One is bound by existing beliefs that we often determine to be fate or even magic, in the case of Niels Bohr, and one that's open to paradox, that captures the essence of an experience, even the essence of the metaphor of a horseshoe above the door, a symbol of luck that then becomes that threshold that we're standing on. It becomes the very vehicle that supports us to cross from one side to the other. Symbol and metaphor, and in the case of this series, archetype, can give us the handlehold or the structure, the essence of what we need to then say, I am told it works, whether I believe in it or not. You may think of it like the difference between standing on the side of a stream bed or the bank of a stream and watching the current go by versus being in a boat and being carried by the boat. Whether you believe or not in the vehicle, in this case the metaphor, the story, the symbol, or the archetype, it has its own purpose that transcends simply rational belief. It becomes the very living artistic expression, the very living, breathing intelligence that supports us to make these great transitions that will not be met through developing leadership skill or aptitude. We are navigating uncharted waters, and in that way, there is a way of being in the midst of change that will create the leadership that you need, what you yearn for and long for, and that will sustain you over many changes. We find ourselves right now in what system scientists call a phase transition. That very remarkable moment that we watch all the time in nature. When water transforms into steam, when a caterpillar dissolves to become a butterfly, when one pattern of order gives way to another. And why are we in this place? Well, first of all, it is the cycle and the relational and deep nature of time. That yes, we have been in a certain season that will change, and the one we are in will change again. We can rely on that as truth. However, for the past 200 years, our civilization has been largely shaped by an industrial paradigm, and we all said yes to it in some level. One that valued control through prediction and planning, progress through extraction, especially resource use, and success that was defined by separation and individuation, instead of interconnection and unity with one another. And so now we are experiencing a change in how we lead as we face a new paradigm. And we experience ecological collapse, social fragmentation, but above all, we face a profound crisis of meaning. We are yearning for those symbols, metaphors, and archetypes to give us the loose structure to help us fit into a framework, not for arrival of knowing where we are and where we're going and how we're going to get there, but to become the vehicle for our artistic spirit, for the breath of life, for the sustenance of our being, to actually navigate this transition. Let's take a moment to talk about research that underlies many of the philosophies, the theories, and the constructs that we've just talked about. In other words, how do we know we are where we are? So there's studies from the Stockholm Resilience Centre that shows that we have crossed 6 of 9 planetary boundaries. And many of the planetary boundaries not crossed, especially in terms of the oceans and their health, will soon be crossed. MIT's longitudinal data reveals that accurate prediction from 1972's limits of growth model shows that our current systems are beginning to falter, and that was predicted in the 2020s, where we are at right now. And finally, Harvard's Adult Development Program corroborates that our existing leadership approaches cannot navigate the complexity that is now emerging. But here's the most fascinating research, and let it speak not just to your head, but truly to your heart. Santa Fe Institute's work on complex adaptive systems reveals that we are at the moments of the greatest instability, at the edge of chaos. And this is where systems, which includes you and me and we, will demonstrate their greatest capacity for creative transformation. And creative transformation lives through archetype, symbol, and metaphor. So I would be remiss if we did not read a poem out of the desire and the longing for the creative spirit to begin to carry us through this series. And here are the words from the great poet Rilke. Captured this threshold moment perfectly when he wrote, "Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final. Don't let yourself lose me. Nearby is the country they call life. You will know it by its seriousness. Give me your hand." These words may sound like a salad or a soup of syntax coming together. And yet, in the heart of his words is the invitation to know that we are in a period of change, where nothing is firm and final. And what we know is nearby there is a country that we call life. And we know it by its gravitas, its weight, its truth. We will not find it, unless we say to one another, "Give me your hand." And so while our systems are indeed dying and transforming, something far more extraordinary is being born. And this is what I refer to as a state of being, a way of being that is akin to your leadership. It is new ways of perceiving, relating, and creating that knows how to navigate complexity rather than ignore or deny it, that knows how to regenerate instead of extract, that knows how to integrate instead of separate. Across every field right now, from economics to medicine, education to governance, technology to spirituality, we know this new paradigm is emerging. And it will come through the lived, embodied practice of individuals and community exploring what can become possible when we expand our awareness, when we diversify our perception, when we move into higher and expanded states of consciousness that bypass the rational mind. What's remarkable, truly remarkable, is that modern science reveals these same capacities as essential for navigating phase transitions in all living systems, and that includes you. So where we go from here is that we will explore living archetypes that are emerging right now in our world as a framework for your leadership, to shift from the old paradigm to the new, and to often stand in between the two. These archetypes are not intended for you to categorize yourself. Rather, they are living, breathing intelligence that can serve as a reflective mirror for you to notice how you are being called forward at this time, to get into the boat instead of standing on the shore. These 5 leadership archetypes are evocative of the Great Transition and what is being called forward right now in all of us. The intention is that you find yourself in each of the 5, not one alone. And they are the bridge maker who translates between 2 worlds, threshold guides who facilitate passages, pathway pioneers who sense and follow emergent possibilities, compassionate catalysts who disrupt systems with great love, and hidden archetypes who strengthen individual patterns of connection. I want to repeat again that this series is not about acquiring roles or skills. These are expressions, vehicles of expanded consciousness, new ways of perceiving and responding to our complex and uncertain reality that transcend the limitations of our dying paradigm. And so our question, to go back to the beginning question posed by Niels Bohr, is not about whether we believe or not that this transition is happening. The data is already clear. It's well underway. The question is, who will you be in this great transition? What state of being will you not just adopt, but embody fully? Which of these evolutionary archetypes represent one component of your contribution in this moment in history? Are you willing to lean into the symbol and metaphor of a horseshoe above your door, whether you believe it or not, as the mechanism for you to shift from standing on the shore to getting into the boat? Over these next 6 episodes, we'll explore each of the 5 leadership archetypes. We'll have a summarizing conversation together. And as always, I will include science, wisdom, conscious strategy, clear steps, enveloped in a place and from a state of heartfelt connection with you. Because this is the state that invites us to recognize, and catalyze the natural leadership capacities that are already within us and ready to lead a new world. The future is not something that happens to us. We create our world through us when we expand our awareness and meet the complexity of our time.